to another podcast of lies My Vagina Told Me. This is the podcast where I confess how my vagina has misled me through love, lust, and the entertainment industry. So many people have always asked me, Bridget, how did your career start? How did this happen? How did you get on a bus from Montreal and end up in movies? Well, here's the truth. Many will tell you it takes very hard work, a lot of talent, a lot of sweat to get far in Hollywood. But in my case, guys, it was a dog bite. So picture this. I am barely 20. I am wide-eyed, fresh-faced, full of ambition and probably too much lip gloss. And I get an audition for this movie called New York Stories with Martin freaking Scorsese. Now, this is like my second audition ever. And I'm thinking, this is it. I am going to be discovered. I'm going to be the new De Niro, just, with boobs. And I walk into this audition and I'm very nervous, but Marty's there and he is holding this little white dog. And I think it was his wife's dog, who was also his producer, Barbara Delfino. And I love dogs, and dogs love me. So, being the good Canadian, of course, I'm very polite. I go over, I shake his hand, and the dog bites my finger. Like full on chomp, right? Blood, drama, pain. Do I scream? No. Do I cry? No. Do I sue him? No. I just stand there smiling, bleeding, and audition for this man. And I see Marty look at me very impressed, like perhaps I passed some like mafia test or something. And I do my audition, and lo and behold, guess what? I got the part. So was it my raw talent, my great screen presence, or the fact that I didn't file a personal injury lawsuit? We will really never know. But being in a room with Martin Scorsese and being on film for what, I don't know, 5 minutes is what absolutely launched my career. Every director that ever wanted to work with Marty wanted to work with somebody who worked with Marty. So he was the magical component that started everything, and he got me my green card into this country. So I was thinking, who is more appropriate to bring on this show than the man who wrote me my first ever fan letter for my first ever movie, New York Stories? Ladies and gentlemen, please meet my first stalker, George Zaver. Yay!
Or also Zaverdas, which is my legal name.
Zaverdas, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here as your, I won't, well, you'll say it.
Let me just tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. George is not technically a stalker. He's actually a brilliant film historian, much like the great Marty Scorsese. He's a former Nielsen's test screening guru for every famous movie and every famous director you have ever seen. But he is also an award-winning filmmaker. And his short, David and Goliath, was based on a true story about how my dad's life was saved by a German Shepherd during World War II. And this movie was fucking shortlisted for the Oscars. Not bad for a guy who could have stuffed me in his trunk in his Buick. So,
And
George,
the dog didn't bite you.
no. So tell me, George, you tell it best. What do you remember about meeting? Because we met the day I was shooting for New York Stories, and I only shot
Which
one day. So tell me what you remember.
I was going to a birthday party of my friend Nina, who was turning 21, and it was a surprise birthday party in Little Italy. I walked into an Italian cafe that I was early, so I had to kill time. So I went in there to have a cappuccino, maybe a pastry, and in walks Bridget. Of course, I didn't know her name. And she walks in, she goes to the counter and she said, I need a sugar fit. So it was basically, she goes,
Nothing
because
is
I'm working on a Martin Scorsese film. And then I looked up and I went, what?
just announced it to a bakery
Yeah.
working on a Martin
So
Scorsese.
the whole cafe knew that it was a Martin Scorsese film. And I looked up and somehow, I'm not shy. I approached her and said, you're working on a Martin Scorsese film? Which film? And I'm assuming I introduced myself.
I think so.
Um,
Yes.
and you told me New York Stories. When she told me that, we had a nice little chat, but she nicely said, do you want to come on set? Do you want to come
Like I
visit?
had any such power.
But I was going to a surprise party, so I couldn't do it. But I asked her name, and somehow I only got Bridget. So that's it. We parted ways. And a year later, the movie comes out, and I go see it. And I'm like looking at the credits and I see Brigitte Bako. That's her. And I remembered, and even though she was in the movie for like a minute and a half, two
No,
minutes,
at least
hello.
4 minutes.
Okay, 4 minutes.
I think.
We'll put it this way, she's in the end of the movie and it made such an impression for me. And I went, this is not only a beautiful woman, but she's incredibly talented.
What was that?
I wanted to touch you for good luck.
For me?
No, for me. Maybe some of it'll rub off.
What, are you an artist?
You're an artist. I'm a painter. I mean, I'm not saying this right.
So in those days, which they don't do anymore, which I think is smart, I somehow contacted SAG and found out,
Who represented me?
yeah,
I never
and
knew how you found out. Okay.
yeah, they gave me your contact information. I don't even think it was,
That is so crazy
which
because,
is never done anymore because of some
well,
serious
yeah,
incidents.
because of stalkers. So, George, I remember you wrote me. I still have this letter, ladies and gentlemen. I have it because it was my first. You wrote me my first ever fan letter. I mean, now I get a lot, mostly from prison, but you were my first. And I swear the other day I had 10 calls from a state penitentiary. I'm
Oh
like,
God.
still smoking. But yours was the first, and it was so beautiful. I wish I had it here. It's in New York. Otherwise, I would read what you wrote because it was just amazing. And you said, if you are ever in Los Angeles, because I was New York based, if you're ever in Los Angeles, give me a call and we'll have a coffee. Do you remember?
Yes, correctly.
And I met this a total fucking stranger because this is the late 80s.
I figured it was appropriate to meet during the day so you won't
Oh
think I
yeah,
was a true
it was really
stalker.
appropriate. You know what else was appropriate? That you did not chop me up and put me in your fucking trunk. That was really appropriate. So I'll tell you,
So if that was 1989
it was
and
89.
I've known you how long now? 36 years?
I can't do math, but yeah,
Something like that,
it's
35,
it's
36.
pretty crazy. And because it was such a wonderful experience. I mean, I was really trusting. I was a fucking Canadian. Nothing bad ever happens in
Well,
Canada.
we hit it. We had a
Hit
long.
it off. And before I want to elaborate on all that, I want to ask you, because in my opinion, George, the work that you've done, like now you are a filmmaker, but you have a 99.9999999% accuracy rate of when you see a film or you see a performer, you know what's going to be a hit and what isn't going to be a hit, which is why you've been the top of your game in
Thank you.
for over 35 years.
Not
So
always, but
do you have such an amazing accuracy rate. So how, though you did think I was going to be a massive superstar, so I don't know where it went wrong there, but there's still time. But how do you know? What feeling do you get?
well, first of all, a lot of it is personal in its opinion, but I would also see these movies with an audience
Yeah.
because test screenings are works in progress and people see them with an audience. So, like I've seen a lot of horror films lately. They're not my genre, but I can tell when people respond to them.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, this may not be for me, but I bet you it does well or it doesn't do well. But I also have very personal taste that's pretty wide and
Yes.
it veers towards more independent films and foreign film.
I mean, you have so much in common with Scorsese.
He's probably one of my, if not my favorite American director.
So my parents are both Holocaust survivors. I am come from some very strong stock. And I had told you a story many years ago when you came to visit. I think you came to an award show with me and my dad. He was my date, and you were my
Yes.
for the Genie Awards. You came to the Genie Awards. I was nominated for I Love a Man in Uniform or something like that. You came, and I don't know if I told you the story or the amazing story my dad told you about how when he was undercover in the partisan movement, he was escaping the Gestapo. They were on to him and they were chasing him. And you tell the rest of the story.
You told me, but then your dad told me the whole story in your beautiful home in Laurel Canyon over a cup of coffee and a counter. And I looked at him when he told me the whole story of how a dog saved his life and he hid in a doghouse and was saved by this German family. And I looked at him and I went, this will be my first short. The footage we used of him from the Show Foundation, of him telling the remaining story, we were so lucky to have. Played in over 50 film festivals all over the world. and I became an honorary Jew because I played in every Jewish film festival.
Drew and I spoke at all these
And I'm a Greek, by the way, not a Jew.
he's a Greek. I am a Yid. So, Georgie, I want to just tell you something. I don't want to upset you, but you are not my only stalker. You are my first. You
Okay.
are my best, but I had a few others, but the other one,
Well, let me
no.
hear. I may not know about them.
I don't know if you know this story. I was doing a play at the Goodman, and my agent at the time was the legendary Sam Cohn. He was my agent, and he was Meryl Streep's agent. They
I
had
remember that.
you remember that? I was in good company. Well, one day I get a phone call in the hotel where I'm staying in Chicago, and he says he's Steven Spielberg. Now, when I was 20 and 21 years old after New York Story, shit like this was happening to me. So I didn't think that was odd. But Steven Spielberg called me, and he said he wanted me for his next film, and he needed to know my measurements. He needed to know my bra size and my pant size. And I thought, wow. Spielberg does his own costumes. This is incredible, right? So
Oh
I
my God.
tell him my boob size and I tell him my waist and then he asks me, if I ride bareback. And I'm like, no. And then I started to think, God, I thought Spielberg would have more of like a Jewish New York accent or something. He sounded really, waspy. Anyway, we get off the phone, not before I've given him my phone number, my home address, and my bra size. And I call the wonderful Sam Cohn and I go, Sam, Steven Spielberg called me. He said you gave him my number. And he goes, yeah, he goes, I think it was Steven. And I mean, Steven Spielberg had been his client and he passed on, just absolutely crazy. And so this guy ended up stalking me, stalking Justine, and I think he went to jail. So he was not as groovy as
But
you.
you never, did you ever meet him?
I never met him. I
Oh,
was I
thank
was
God.
fortunate enough never to have met him, but there is somebody out there that knows my bra size from 1991. Okay, so I want to just say something to the people of the world, and it's a note to all the stalkers out there. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Don't give up. You too could end up a trusted creative advisor to the woman you once obsessed with in a bakery. But here's the thing. From the day that I met you, George, when we finally met in Los Angeles, from that day forward, every script, every role, every project I have run past you, George. And if George doesn't laugh, it's not funny. And if George doesn't like it, I don't do it. And if George says it's good, then I know that I have something. What do you think about this podcast?
The title is great. It's provocative for some people. They might go like, "What is this about?"
No, it's a show about growing up girl to woman in my case Hollywood, but it really talks to all women about all the choices we make. They say men are led by their dicks, but women are just we make a lot of decisions by the wrong body part too. And I let it guide me. But I think coming out on the other end at 58, I am learning that all those what I thought were wrong decisions and wrong turns ends up bringing you exactly where you are meant to be today. So the fact that you started making films later in life, there is no later in life. While you're breathing, you can do it. And I know that
That's how I feel.
you're working on a very special project right now. Do you want to talk about it at all?
I could tell you a little about it. It's a 9/11 project, and it's could be a short, it could be a feature. I'm not defining the length, but I kept watching this show every year on 60 Minutes where firemen and policemen, it was mostly firemen being interviewed um, about that day. A couple of captains were saying, "Why me? Like, why did I survive?" And I kept wondering, what did the spouses do that day? Either married to someone or dating someone. They left in the morning, and then all of a sudden they were gone. And I started interviewing. I've interviewed now 27 women. Some
Wow,
of them, some of them who've lost their husbands, but most of them who survived, and telling me exactly
what waiting was
uh, what they did that day. So when I started interviewing them, I thought I want to shoot something with one actor, an actress, and in real time, what they did that day. They left and then they had the TV on and they watched the buildings come down. So it's really an experiment. It could go on for an hour, it could go on it's the actor is going to be so key.
I'm not a test screener, but I already know this is going to be a very, 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 very special project. You
How
see,
did it work?
you're so much deeper than me, George, because I wanted to do a project about 9/11 because I was in LA for 9/11 and I had such New York guilt. I wanted to be there. So I immediately, as soon as they let us go back there, I went and I volunteered down near Ground Zero and made
I
cappuccinos.
remember you told me that.
But I mean, I want to call my project fucking heroes because I don't know if you know, it was like Sodom and Gomorrah after 9/11. Everyone was stripping everyone. It was like a giant funeral and everybody was licking off their wedding rings and trying to have sex with firemen to do our part. I got sanitation worker and I got one detective. I didn't get all the way up to fireman.
And then I'm working on a screenplay that it's taking way too long because it's personal, way too long because I don't write like you. You're a disciplined writer. I'm not.
There's a friend of ours, he's a feature film writer, and he said to me once when I was going through kind of like a little bit of a writer's lull, and he said, as long as you write a sentence a day, you can call yourself a writer. And I wrote some of my best shows one sentence a day, and then one sentence
Wow.
leads to five, and then lo and behold, you have one of your best episodes. So
But see, you know your strategy because not to plug a book, one of the best books on writing, it's not necessarily screenwriting, is Stephen King's book on writing. And he wakes up in the morning,
most
has his coffee, closes his door,
right,
and doesn't
most
come out till
most writers,
lunchtime.
yeah, I understand. Writing is
It,
his
it's it's discipline. No, it's discipline. It's discipline that I don't really have.
young starlet who had quite a lucrative career. I do not know why I thought it was a really good idea to stop acting at the age of 40 and just write. I can't even fucking spell, so I don't know why I thought that was such.
But if you make it entertaining and then you share your experience, people relate.
I used to think I was only going to work with Martin Scorsese. Like, I just thought, well, why work with anybody else? And like my films after that just went, I didn't quite choose them well. Yeah, I was choosing them by who was hot and where did it shoot. And oh, I've never been to the Philippines, or I was not
But
choosing.
then you did your own series, which is quite an achievement, the
Yes,
G
I
Spot.
did. Yes,
Who
very, very
who is the
proud.
showrunner, the writer, and the star? And that was your first outing in TV, right?
Yes, and
Like
only
your
because you
meeting.
read them, only because I sent my first
Yeah,
scripts
I
to
remember. Well, I
in a
because
row.
they were great.
And Georgie said, the first thing you said to me was when I sent you my first episode, you said, there's no way you could have written it. It's too good. It was a fluke. Write a second one. And you made me write a second one. You said the same thing about the second one. And then I read a third. I wrote five spec scripts when
And
they
how
were
many
sold.
seasons did it run?
It ran 3 seasons. They wanted five, but I wanted to go have an affair in Italy. Or I don't know. I was busy. And I'd sold the show to HBO. So I was like, oh, I'm
And
leaving.
then you yourself were in two series between Red Shoe Diaries and what was the other one?
Mine of the
Um,
Married Man. Rachel,
Mind of
yours
America.
was the film that launched the series. Like ours was a 2-hour film. I hope to have David Duchovny on this show.
Oh,
A whole episode about that. That was an
and
interesting.
Mind of a Married Man, didn't it last at least two seasons?
Mine of the Married Man was on HBO. Mike Binder was the creator. It's where I met my dear friend Sonia Walger. It lasted 2 seasons. The problem with Mind of the Married Man was they're supposed to be the male answer to Sex in the City. And I was so excited to be on an HBO show. I mean, like an HBO comedy because nobody like
Yeah.
me. I was bludgeoned, raped, and killed and everything I did. I'm like, no one fucking thinks I'm funny. But the problem was that it was a show about married men cheating, which is not the same as single women fucking around in New York City. So it didn't quite work. And also, all I had was really good hair and all I did was cry. So it was not a comedic masterpiece for me. And it was during that time where I'm like, I think I gotta write something for myself because nobody's giving it to me. But I want to say thank you for always being there for me, never giving up on me. Even when dogs, casting directors, and this business itself had, you never did. You always believed. And thank you so
And then you also, not to give you a little plug, you're working on another show that you want to
much.
develop.
I have,
And
yes, I
and
do.
it
Every
is
show.
and I read it and it was one of the funniest things I've read
Each
in a
one.
long
Does
time.
it
It's
have a
probably
female
one of the best things you're, huh?
anticlimactic?
Yes.
Yes, she's lost her youth, her job, and her orgasm. It's not all bad. Coming to a station near you or a phone or something. Listen, Marty Scorsese was my first director. George Zaverdas was my first stalker. G-Spot was my first series. I love First. Thank you so much. And guess what? I just
Fine.
think that your film, do you have a title for it yet?
You're Missing, actually.
You're Missing.
And actually, it is semi-inspired by Springsteen's album, The Rising. There's a song called You're Missing, so that's a trigger.
Episode, how George is obsessed with Springsteen.
Your best review of Springsteen, and I'll never forget it, is he's not for me, but he has a nice ass.
Sounds like me, George.
Okay, we'll leave it with that.
We'll leave it with that.
All right, bye.
God bless you. Bye.
Lies My Vagina Told Me is hosted by moi, Brigitte Bako, produced by Jacques Telemaque and Léa Sherman, artwork by Léa Sherman, theme and original music by Jack Moore for balladguitar.com. See you next time on Lies My Vagina Told Me.